So we're gonna jump right back into the story from where we left off in the previous video. If you haven't seen that video, you should go watch it. In case you couldn't tell from the first video, I'm telling the story of T-Boy Wrestling, like the beginning to the end. This chapter is about us traveling. It covers from the San Francisco show to the Portland show. But we spent the entire April recovering from the two T-Boy Wrestlings previous and planning the upcoming tours because we knew Pride Month was going to be huge. I was insistent that we not add anything else to our schedule. It was just too much. We were doing too much stuff. But Massei Island was the next big event that we had coming up. And it was on the first day of Pride Month. And we threw that with Nikki and Joe of Yes Ma'am again. Like, since I had seen their last year's Massei Island party, I really loved it, and they asked if we wanted to collab on this year's Massei Island party, and I was like, yes, I would love to. They had found like a really beautiful large house with a pool and a hot tub and a sauna, and then the weekend after that party was our Transmask Thursday doll takeover event. Then the day after that, Friday, was the transgender rodeo. Then the day after that was Dyke Day. So it was just 3 days of events in a row, and then the weekend before that was 2 days of Massei Island. I do remember the party was really beautiful. It was trans people in their swimsuits, playing the pool, laying out in giant beanbag chairs on the lawn, people lounging in the hot tub and the sauna. It was really fun though. Great way to kick off Pride Month. But after 2 days of Massei Island back to back, I was preparing for the Dolls Takeover. We were throwing the Dolls Takeover in collaboration with Paradise. She ran an all-trans like cabaret show that was like welcoming to dolls in all stages of their transition. Yeah, Misha and I loved that vibe, so we said, let's do a collab. Let's throw a Transmask Thursday all together. The High Top set up a poll for us, and it popped off super hard. It was really fucking fun. Definitely one of my favorite Transmask Thursdays, but the next night was the trans rodeo. And Misha and I had the idea of having like a mechanical bull at a party a couple months before, and we looked it up and it was not that expensive, surprisingly. And I was like, let's do it. It went really well. There was a line down the street. Everyone was dressed in Western themed stuff. We had like hot dogs in the back that we were grilling, and everybody wanted to ride the bull, and people were dancing inside, and it was really fun. I remember that we blew the fuse of Sassafras at the very end of the night, which, oops. But I remember leaving this party and I was just burnt out. But Saturday morning I woke up and it was Dyke Day. I woke up and there was just like a weird energy in the air, and I didn't want to go to Dyke Day. I wanted to call and say, sorry, I'm too exhausted, Mish, but I had to be there to set everything up. I left my place like really late and I was almost out of gas. So I was like, okay, shit, let me pull into this gas station. Like, the gas station's here. There was like a car on the side of the road idling, and I'm driving down the street and I have to turn in front of that car to pull into the gas station. And right as I turn in front of the car, he runs right into me, right into the side of my door. I was so fucking mad. I was just like, damn it, I knew I shouldn't have left my fucking house, like, God's punishing me. Day ruined, but still went to Dyke Day and showed up late and tried to rally. I'd never been to a Dyke Day before, but it was really cool. It was like, it felt really different from all of the other like WeHo Pride events that I'd been at. It definitely, I saw way more people than I knew in real life there, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, we like brought a pop-up and a grill, and we gave out 3 hot dogs and like took photos under this pop-up that we'd made, and it was really cute and really fun. But I just remember being really tired and falling asleep in the grass because I was like, I'm too burnt out. But I threw 2 days of Massei Island, threw Transmask Thursday with the dolls, threw the rodeo, set up everything for Dyke Day, stayed at Dyke Day, also got in a car accident. But like 1 week later, we left for our first T-Boy Wrestling outside of LA, and headed up to the Bay Area with everybody in tow. So the way we created the wrestling team in the Bay Area was very similar to the way we created one in LA, except this time we just had a mix of guys from both cities. A lot of the previous wrestlers that had wrestled in the LA shows, they were like I want to wrestle in all of these. I want to go to SF with y'all. And this was also part of the reason why we traveled with the show anyways, was to connect trans people all over the US with each other, like in a real way where they're actually friends. It's definitely not a bad thing in this current political climate to have a large web of interconnected trans friends all across the United States. And yeah, the people who had been participating since the very first show, it felt like it was like a team, you know, and the same people would like come to the TDLA events all the time. It was a real team. Yeah, we had a lot of wrestlers in the Bay Area who wanted to participate, and trans dudes at the Bay Area did a lot of legwork and like getting practices put together, and they found like a gym that they could throw all the practices at. But the first day we got there was a Tuesday, and that night there was a Trans Mask Tuesday at the Stud in SF. So everyone rested for a little bit, and we all piled in the Uber, and we went to the party. It was really cute. I remember the Stud being slammed. It was packed in there, and it was like a random Tuesday night. So the bar staff, they were like, yeah, just tell us if you're ever coming back, because we would have hired a lot more bartenders on for tonight. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And then Wednesday, there was a wrestling practice. I went to just watch. I loved going to the practices to watch. But I just loved watching everybody like slam each other down onto the mats. I would just get so excited and into it. One of the nights we were there, Finley, he works at a tattoo studio. He like invited everyone over. Rob brought his like DJ equipment and speakers, and we had a improv karaoke night. Where I remember this being like one of my favorite memories from this trip. It was really cute, and Sherman sang Stacy's mom, and it was so good. It's like one of my favorite moments. The next day was one of my busiest days, and it's like the day before the event was always the busiest day. But at 6 that night, like everyone met up at the LGBT Center in San Francisco for just like a small dinner, and like mostly it was just to get the nerves out. The next day was the show, and I remember the show in the Bay Area went really, really well. And the crowd like showing up, I don't think all of them really knew what to expect, so it took a minute for the crowd to get into it. But once the like sun had gone down a little bit, and once the crowd was a little more warmed up, it got going, it got popping. There was a lot of really badass matches, like there was a lot of really intense matches, and there was a lot of really cool performance matches too. This venue was awesome too, because there was like a first floor, and then there was a second floor where people could like look down and see the ring from above. But a lot of people were coming up to me being like, this is so awesome, this is so cool. A reporter from ABC came to this event and interviewed us and some of the wrestlers, and there was literally a marriage proposal at the last match of this show. One of the wrestlers had hit us up a couple weeks before the show being like, I want to propose at this show, like, can we set that up? And our team worked with them, and it was really cool. That was the only time that happened, so shout out. But after the show, we packed everything up, went back to the house, and there was a little after party going on downstairs. Everyone arm wrestling and eating tacos and listening to music, hanging out, dancing around. But I felt a little sick, so I just went to bed really early that night. But the next day we all went up to a river in Monte Rio, and this is one of my favorite memories from the trip for sure. We like all went swimming at this river and ate sandwiches and drank leftover beer from the show. And I remember Al making a sandwich on top of Cosmo and using him as the sandwich making board. But everyone was just being silly and splashing around and jumping off tall rocks and swimming across the river. It was really cute, really fun. And then that night the ABC segment aired, and we all sat down and watched it together, and it made me cry. But everybody looked so good, and you know, the clips were touching, but we were staying in the Bay Area till the next weekend because we had been hired by San Francisco Pride to do a T-Boy wrestling performance on stage. On the Pride stage. A few of the guys who were going to be in the Pride stage performance, they stayed behind this week instead of going back to LA. But we had to downsize the Airbnb from the 8-bedroom one, obviously. Misha and I moved everybody from the first Airbnb to the second one. It was clearly like a rich family who traveled for the summer with their kids. So it was like, it wasn't one of those Airbnbs where it's like barren except for like a mattress and like an IKEA lamp. Like, it was like a house that people actually lived in, and it was so beautiful, so cool. There was like a sauna in there. It was awesome. Thursday, a group of us went on a hike at Golden Gate Park to go see the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's also one of the highlights of this trip for me. Just walking and talking and like playing around with everybody, going down to the ocean and splashing around. It was another Saturday, another two-way wrestling show. Around like 9:30 in the morning, we had all of the pairs come over to the Airbnb, and we had this big grassy backyard. So we ran through the performance a few times back there. Our show on the stage was around like 1 p.m. So we got there 12:30, set everything up, and then the Pride stage that we were at started going. The crowd was pretty dead when we were going onto the stage. There was like a lot of Pride stages open. This wasn't the only one. It was like kind of like a festival. But the one we were on was not the main one, and it was not the one that was the most promoted either. So I knew that the crowd might be like a little bit smaller, but we couldn't really do anything about that. The announcer announced two-way wrestling though, and I got my camera out, started recording the show. After like the first match, I turned around and the crowd behind me had like quadrupled in size, and a bunch of people were like walking towards the stage. The crowd was large, and like that was the best feeling, honestly, to see like the interest in what we were making. I don't know, it's just very tangible. It was very undeniable. But the next day we went back to LA, and San Francisco had successfully happened. I now had proof in my heart that we were able to like travel with the show successfully, which was great because New York was right around the fucking corner. New York was there was a lot of planning to do for that show. We'd been having a difficult time with the second day venue. Originally, we were going to use the Melrose Ballroom. They weren't communicating with us as well as we had hoped they would. And I remember feeling like a little bit weird about it, like a little, something's not right maybe. But Mish was like, don't worry, me and Rob are working on getting this venue. Keep doing your administrative work, the creative work, getting all these wrestlers together. But Dallas Havoc, he came to us with an idea about how to get some of the LA wrestlers to New York. Because a bunch of the guys who had participated, you know, now in all of the shows, even the SF1, they wanted to keep going to them. But they couldn't all afford a plane ticket or housing, so Dallas was like, we should do a car wash to raise funds. And Mish was like, that's a really good idea, let's do that. It was like around this time that I noticed some real cracks starting to form. Nikki told me that Mish had borrowed $10,000 from him, which Mish had not told me he was going to do. He had borrowed it like under his name personally, so it's not like I had any control over that, but you know, he was using it to pay for TDLA things. People were messaging me being like, I still haven't been paid, and Mish had definitely been like, yeah, I paid them, we're all good. And yikes, that also, if you've told me someone's been paid and then they come to me and they say they haven't, it's like, that's concerning to me. And I would confront Mish about it and be like, dude, what the fuck? And he would just get mad at me and be like, you have no idea how much stress I'm under. I'm just trying to hold this all together, etc., etc. But Joe from Yes Man, he lives in New York City, so he told us that he could take on the responsibility of trans dudes in New York and like help us get practices organized, help us, you know, book venues for the after party, etc., etc. And it was really helpful. But we had decided to have that car wash that Dallas had recommended at Junior High LA, which is like a multi-purpose gallery and event space in Glendale. So the wrestlers who were going to get their plane tickets comped, the idea was they came and they washed the cars. It was looking good, feeling good, but then we actually showed up at the physical location and it did not feel so good anymore. I like immediately knew we should not have done this in Glendale. Glendale is a very regressed neighborhood of Los Angeles, like politically, it's not a safe spot. So people were just like staring at us, like old men across the street were like standing there for minutes watching us, but we just ignored it because like it's a private parking lot of a leftist event space, and so we were like, well, what are they gonna do? But then all of a sudden, two guys like burst out of this door that was like also sharing the parking lot. One was an older guy, and then one was like a guy in his 30s. And they just started screaming at us to leave, and screaming like slurs at us, being super aggressive. They started screaming at us saying that this is a jiu-jitsu gym where kids take classes and that we had to leave the parking lot. And the junior high people told them, we emailed you about this, that there would be a car wash back here. You said it was okay in the email. The younger guy started screaming about how he didn't know it would be full of slur, and that these slurs were here to be sexual in front of the children. So that wasn't great. We were just trying to wash some cars, so chill out. But Mish told everybody, he was like, just go to the other side of the parking lot, like, I'll take care of this. And so I got everyone together and I was like, oh, let's just leave them alone. And we shuffled to the other side of the parking lot. I was like, let's just let Mish and the representative for junior high take care of these guys. And I watched Mish across the parking lot like go head to head with these transphobes. I thought he was gonna get into a fight with them. Like, it looked close. But at some point in their conversation that we couldn't really hear, the 30-year-old guy turned around and punched the aluminum roll-up door that's part of the gym and like made a really loud noise that was like, everyone was like, oh my God. And then eventually the older guy just knew like this man was acting like a fool, so he like dragged him back inside their gym and they like left us alone. But you could just hear the guy like punching and kicking the aluminum door from the other side and like screaming slurs at us, which was terrifying. We were all like, oh my God, we're gonna get hate crimed. I felt really bad for the junior high representative. They did not know that that was gonna happen, but they took really good care of the situation and did their best. But Charlie Gross, he is one of like the guys who's wrestled in a bunch of the TDLA events. He's also one of the heads of Rebellion Rugby in LA, which is like a queer rugby team. And he texted his rugby group chat being like, our trans asses are like about to get hate crimed at this parking lot. Like, can some of you come and like protect us? A couple of them were like, we'll be right over. I genuinely thought that this leftist gallery space with a private fenced parking lot was gonna be safe enough and that we wouldn't need a security guard, but clearly I was wrong. But then like some of the beefy rugby men showed up and like stood outside the parking lot, and when a car would pull up and stare for like a little too long and be giving a weird vibe, they would walk up to the car and be like, are you here to get your car washed or are you leaving? And I was just like, you guys are so cool. I was just really grateful that they had our backs. And shout out Rebellion Rugby, the most trans-friendly sports team in all of LA. But once we didn't feel like we were in danger, we relaxed and we were able to like have a good time at the car wash, and it was actually genuinely really fun. We made like 4.5K that day, which we used to be able to pay for almost all of the wrestlers' tickets who wanted to come. It wasn't quite enough, but Mish said he took some money from TDLA profits to pay for the rest, which who knows if that's true. I don't know if anything's true at this point, but that's what got told to me. So, but literally 11 days before the show, the New York show, we got an email from Melrose Ballroom, and Rob had been acting as our location booker and had been trying to get in contact with them to be able to pay the security deposit. We'd already been sent a contract by them and signed it and sent it back, like with a price already worked out, and we were just trying to pay the first deposit. The venue's price, like on the contract that we signed, was 7.5K, with the upfront amount needing to be 4K, which the booker that Rob had talked to had said is what they charged all wrestling events who went there, right? And we were all set to send a check to them, And then Rob got a call from one of the venue's representatives, and she said that the old events manager wasn't working there anymore, and the price that he quoted us was too low, and that the price was actually going to be $21,000, and it was all due by tomorrow, and if we couldn't pay that, we lost the venue slot. And we sent her the contract, and we reminded her that we'd already sold like 500 tickets, and she was like, I don't care. We were really shocked. Mish and Rob and I met up, and we were like, is this even legal? Like, they never signed the contract, but they were the one who wrote the contract, so I don't know. Even if it wasn't legal, we didn't have time to like sue them or threaten to sue them and try and get their decision reversed legally. Like, there was only 11 days before the show. But we were just kind of confused, like, why did they cancel our contract? Did the booker really get fired? Did the owner look up T-Boy Wrestling and not like the politics of the show? Was it too scandalous? What was it? And also, what the fuck are we gonna do now? So me started emailing and calling venues all over New York. Everyone was booked already or not getting back to us. And then AJ suggested that we call $3 bill. So we did. And the owner said that the venue was booked for that day, but the sister venue, 9 Bob Note, was not booked, and that we could throw our party there. And we were like, thank fucking God. That was amazing, and we were really grateful. I remember on the flight to New York being really upset. Something was just felt off to me. I was working too hard to enjoy anything. Like, New York City is my favorite place in the whole world, and yet I was just not excited about it. And that felt weird to me. But Mish and Lyle and I got into New York really late, and we just went right to the Airbnb, and we got there, and we were like, fuck, it did not
Holy shit, it's hot up here.
look as nice as it did online. It just wasn't big enough.
What the hell?
So bizarre.
They should probably change that fucking listing.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of squeezing people into spots. It was kind of horrible. I hated it. It was also clear to me by this time that we really did need to separate the wrestlers and staff if we were going to be taking wrestlers with us to every show. That needed to start happening, but Mish did not want to hear that. He didn't want any more expenses. But the trip did happen. It moved forward. We got everyone in the house. We got the new venue space. It was hard, but everything was happening. Things were moving forward. A lot of the people who came with us to wrestle had never been to New York before. And it was really cool to see a bunch of people who had never been to New York City before come to New York City with like a group of friends and an itinerary of cool parties where like the parties were for them. I'm just glad that we were able to give people a reason to go, and we were able to get their plane ticket and give them somewhere to stay, even if all those things weren't ideal. People still did have the experience. So Wednesday night, I remember we went to go see the wrestling practice, and this was the first time that I got to see the New York guys and meet a bunch of them, and some of them were really, really good wrestlers. Thursday, we had like a wrestlers meet and greet planned, and then Friday we had like a team dinner at the Brooklyn LGBT Center. After the dinner, there was like a practice for the performance matches, and Dallas and Ashton ran the performance practices, and they were really great together. They had a really good back and forth between them. I just was like really impressed watching them coach that practice. Saturday morning was the day of the first show. We got to the venue, we set everything up. Once the ring was there and set up, people were able to start like jumping around and practicing on it. But the roulette had 3 floors. The roulette is where we threw the first night. There was a bottom floor, which was like the green room for all the wrestlers. Then there was the middle floor, which was where the ring and stage and entrance was. And then there was another floor, which was like a top like balcony with built-in seating, and people could like look down at the ring. But this show ended up being amazing. This is, in my opinion, this is my favorite show that we ever threw. The venue was so awesome and so helpful. The matches were so awesome. Like, we kept that show tight as fuck. It was perfect. It didn't run over at all. Everyone seemed like they were having the best time, like screaming and jumping around, and the crowd was super into it. It was really clear that some of them had been practicing their match for like weeks. Some of them were really intense too. And I was really proud of the team and everyone's performances. And the reaction from people online was like really positive. People were really happy with the show. So I left immediately and I went to bed. There was an after party at Mood Ring, which apparently was crazy lit, but I knew that if I didn't go to bed like immediately, the next day was gonna be hell. So, but Sunday morning, we went to the venue at like 9 a.m. The show was like during the day on Sunday and during the night on Saturday. So we had 6 hours to set up the venue, which we had 6 hours, actually less. We had 5 hours the day before to set up the venue and we'd done it just fine. So I figured 6 hours was gonna be fine for the second day. And they had said like you can come between 8 and 9. So we like got there in that time period and we were knocking on the door really loud. The guys who were gonna set the ring up were already there. They were like big, like 4 big burly guys that were like, obviously had other things to do and were like, when are we gonna be able to set this up? I thought you said 9. And we were like, we're so sorry, they won't let us in. We saw someone like walk by the window and we were like, hey. And they just like looked at us and didn't open the door. And we were like, what the fuck? I was calling the owner, I was calling the bar's number, I was calling the AV tech whose number we'd been given. So I was having a little bit of a panic attack. So Mish told me to go get coffee and to come back and chill. So I did that. Me and Lyle got back to things being opened and loaded in. And then I walked into the back where the ring was being set up. And then I did have a panic attack. We had been told, or Mish had told me after speaking to the owner, that the outdoor area was like fully tented and in the shade. So I was not expecting what it actually looked like. But the shade only covered like 1/3 of the space. The stage, Jumbotron, not in the area with the shade, and the ring was being set up in front of the stage. I was like, what are we doing, Mish? Like, we cannot be in the sun. I was like, the mats are gonna bake in the sun and they're gonna be so hot. Like, we cannot have, like, we will have to literally cancel the event. Like, people could not be standing in the sun all day in August in New York City. And we were like desperately looking for solutions, trying to figure out what to do to provide shade for the ring. And I was like, there needs to be shade for the crowd too. They can't be in the fucking sun all day. So Cornelius, Chaz, and a couple other people like helped rig up this like tarp on the like light fixtures to like somewhat give shade, and it looked so bad. Like, not because of them. They did a great job and I'm really grateful that they helped me figure something out. It just looked really bad, the shade did. It was like drooping. I would rather it look bad than have everybody stand in the sun all day. And this was the first problem in a day that felt like it was a never-ending problem from start to finish. This show was, for me, the worst show that we ever threw. The dressing room was too small for all the wrestlers. Because the venue had changed so late, Melrose Ballroom was like 18 plus, but this venue had a bar, so it was 21 plus. So some people couldn't come now because they weren't 21. And we had announced it really late because it had changed really late. So I felt really bad about that. I felt really, really bad, but we just tried to refund their tickets, you know, on Eventbrite and be really apologetic. The mats were still really hot, even though it was partially shaded. It was so hot that we had to, the only thing that we were able to do to cool them off was to dump ice on the mats in between the rounds and like slosh around and dry it and just cool the mats down. It was ridiculous. Ridiculous. We had like fans set up on the side of the ring, like trying to blow and dry it off and keep it cool. It was just a fucking mess. But much to my surprise, nobody seemed to care. Everyone was like, oh my god, this is so fun. And I was like, what? You're having fun? I thought that everyone was gonna want my head on a stick and a refund of their tickets, but everyone was like, this feels like a music festival. I was shocked by that. That also was like what made me be able to handle all of the problems of that day. Was like, okay, I guess not everyone is having the worst fucking day ever. Maybe it's just me. But there was a lot of, even though the day was hard, there was a lot of beautiful moments, and a lot of people did have a really good time. Some of the wrestlers were like, yeah, that was my favorite show. I think the highlight for me was Jennifer playing a set during the halftime. They're so good. It was so awesome. It really did feel like a music festival, having like a live band play on stage and the whole crowd like dancing around. At the end of the day, the sun started setting, and you could see like these buildings like silhouette on the pink and blue sky, and like wrestlers in the ring, and it was so beautiful. And then it was over, and we did it, and it was over. And I think the moment that it ended and we were out of there was the single best moment of my life. I was like, oh my god, we did it. Holy shit, we did it. Mish woke me up the next morning by being like, hey, just go to this hotel in Manhattan. Like, there's a room for you. I booked a room for you. Just go and work. Because at this point, the LA show was in like a month, and we had a ton of work to do for it still. And he was like, I need you to keep working on the LA show and also the Portland show. So here's a room, like, go work. And I was like, don't gotta tell me twice. So me and Lyle left, and Lyle and I got to like hang out in a cool hotel room, like it was quiet and comfortable, and I got a lot of work done, and we just rested, and we met up with the group like a couple times to hit a party, but mostly just stayed. But when we got back to LA, I was just so relieved to be back home in Los Angeles. I knew that Mish was going to be late in paying people in New York City, so I made a spreadsheet myself from that show, even though that wasn't something that like was my job in the partnership. I made a spreadsheet and found everyone's like invoices in our email and like put them all in there, and then was like constantly harassing him about paying everyone. Every day I was on his ass, shamelessly annoying. He always had an excuse to why he couldn't just pay everyone immediately, but I just kept bugging him. I was like, all right, well, I'll bug you again tomorrow. Like, you have to talk to me. I'll just keep bothering you. It was also around this time that I was like really pressuring him to get a Transdudes of LA bank account. He had also said many times, many times, he's like, yeah, we have an LLC. Like, I set it up. We've got an LLC. I was like, if we have this LLC, why don't we have a bank account? It should be extremely easy to set up a bank account if we have a valid LLC. And I got mad at him, like really mad a couple times, being like, this is my money too, like, I need to see my money, like, type vibe. But he would always, like, assure me, he'd be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go see my accountant, Karen. I doubt he had a real accountant. Like, I doubt that that even existed. But he would be like, I'll set up an appointment, like, later this week. Or, like, that he was still crunching, like, still doing the numbers or whatever. But it was always like, you can't see it now, but, like, like a couple days, like, just a little bit longer. Just putting it off all the time. Looking at it past tense, it's obvious that, like, he was lying because he was, like, stealing or mismanaging things and he didn't want me to know. I thought that he was just, like, maybe he had spent some of the money, like, stupidly, and he just didn't want me to know that. Like, he was embarrassed about, like, maybe some of the purchases he had made. Because I was always like, we need to plan better so that we don't have to, like, make frivolous last-minute purchases. And so I thought, like, maybe he was embarrassed about something like that. Or that he was just lazy and, like, wouldn't actually want to call his accountant to set that appointment up. Like, I didn't think that it was like what it actually was. I didn't think it was that bad, you know what I mean? I could never have thought that it was to the level that it actually was. That never crossed my mind. Because we were best friends and I saw him every day. I thought he would never do something like that to me, you know? I also remember around this time my therapist being like, why can't you see the money? Like, where is your money, Adam? And she was really concerned for me. She was like, you should stop working with Mish until you have the money that you're owed, because you can barely live. Like, your quality of life because of this person and this job is really low. Like, she was really just concerned for my well-being, and I think that me echoing Mish's lies to her about why I couldn't see the money coming out of my mouth, not convincing. I couldn't lie to her as well as Mish could lie to me. She would call it every time. She was like, you should stop working with him until he shows you the money. And I would be like, yeah, you're right. And then I would go to his house and be like, bro, I'm gonna stop working if I don't see this money soon. And he'd be like, oh, I'm gonna get it, don't worry. Like, I'll call Karen, like, set up something in the week. Like, we just gotta do this and this and this and this and this. Like, all these other things that we have to do. Like, just focus on that. But he was like covering things up like well enough and always piling more work onto my plate to keep me distracted and off of his back, because there was a ton of work to do. We had practices for the LA T4T shows and a ton of prepping that I needed to focus on. This show was like the 1 year of T-Boy Wrestling show. This was also the first show that we had opened up to not just be trans masks, like, it was trans people of all gender identity, like, completely open. So this show, this LA show, was really important and special to me because ever since our first show, we'd been getting DMs and messages from trans femmes, or like non-binary people being like, I want to wrestle too. People already make such a huge issue, especially about trans women in sports, that I couldn't, in good conscience, exclude trans femmes from our sporting event. But this was our trial run of the expanded show, and we did it in LA because home turf. There was a lot of people who signed up. It was awesome to see like such a diverse cast of wrestlers. Like, we got Kid Bandit and Tristan, like 2 trans femmes to come coach, and it was awesome to not just have trans mask coaches, I think. This show was going to be a lot easier than any of the traveling ones, because we were able to print the merch at Misha's shop. We were able to print the programs at LMU. We had our cars to like lug shit around. And so this show felt like a piece of cake, honestly. It was so much easier after all of the other things that I just experienced in New York and San Francisco. It was like no sweat. So it was 2 days at Micah Studios, which is a warehouse in downtown LA. It's kind of crazy big. It's got like an insanely large square footage. Because it was such a large square footage, there was a lot of stuff that I had to do to like make sure the vibe felt good. But I felt more prepared than ever. And then the show came. It went really well though. It felt easy to throw for me. It was awesome to have like the whole trans community participating together. But this was our 1 year anniversary show. It was also the 7th and 8th shows. We basically threw 8 shows in a single year. Like, that is insane. And that's why I had to be working on this full time. It couldn't have been any other way. If I wasn't working on this full time, it wouldn't have worked. How else were we gonna throw 8 shows a year if we didn't have someone working on this project full time? It wasn't gonna happen. But I was really burnt out, and I was telling Mish, like, for the 2026 shows, we have to have like at least 6 weeks in between each show in order for me to be able to like handle it. We can only go to 6 cities a year, like, and LA is one of them. You gotta pick which cities you wanna go to. Me and Mish argued about the 2026 tour dates for weeks and weeks. He wanted to throw way more shows, and I was like, no. But eventually, like, we came to some conclusion and made our 2026 tour. So immediately after the LA shows, it was time to prep for Portland. It was like Portland was right around the corner. The team in Portland seemed so excited for the shows. Like the city of Portland seemed really, really excited to see those shows. We found the best venue ever. Avenue Portland was my dream. It was designed entirely by AV and lighting technicians. They had everything there. They had everything there already. I didn't have to fucking do anything. They had the best lights, the best projectors. They had tons of mics, tons of sound equipment. This venue is amazing. Like, I was always just telling them, like, this is my dream. AJ was our like party booker, and they found bars for our after parties. Everything was like set to go, looking good. The wrestlers' practices were happening, they were going well. People were showing up to them. And things were kind of looking better. I kind of had settled down a little bit. It looked like we would finish these Portland shows up, and then I would finally be free to rest for a couple months, and I would finally get a payout and be able to pay some of my debt and like relax and move, because my lease was up in November. And also I was excited to have a couple of months of no shows to be able to set up an infrastructure in TDLA, like a bank account. I wanted access to the bank account, and I wanted to be able to take money out, and this was all stuff that Mish promised that we would have after the Portland shows. I wanted an accountant, and I wanted the accountant to be the one paying people out next year. I wanted contracts for every single like performer or employee. I wanted a credit card for TDLA that had like airline mile perks, so we didn't have to pay for so many airline tickets. I wanted to like book every single venue that we had coming up for those shows, so we had everything like locked in for the year. I was like, Mish, are you ready to like buckle down and get everything like set up so that this next year can be way easier and less chaotic? And he was like, yeah, we'll do this after Portland. And it's clear to me now that he had no intention of doing any of that. Like any of the like stuff that would have helped us grow at a sustainable rate, he just wasn't interested in it, and he would have never done it. I kind of just like had a feeling in my stomach of like dread about the future. Me and Mish fought about money constantly. Every single time we saw each other, we would fight about money. I would get really mad at him for not paying people when he had told me that he had, for not paying people on time. I don't want people to think that I was just like, oh, well, I know that this person didn't get paid, but it's Mish's problem. No, I was bullying him. I would always be like, dude, you're making me a liar. Your actions reflect on me. We're a business together. Like, I would constantly remind him of that. But I would like bully him every single time we would meet. I would be like, what is your issue? Why can't you seem to Zell people? Like, why does your Zell never go through? That doesn't happen to me. I was like, if you're too inept to handle all of this, if you're not capable of handling the money, then you need to give me the money. But I realize now that he hated that and it made him furious, but he was terrified that I would shut everything down. I was the only one who could pull the plug on this. He needed me to be happy to make the car of T-Boy Wrestling drive. I was the car. I was the one doing all of the grunt work. When he would get upset after I would be upset with him about the money, I was starting to like be unsympathetic to like whatever he was making himself the victim about. Kind of like done with this shit, right? But Mish flew out to Portland a few days before us to like print merch, and when I got up there, he'd barely done anything. There was hats, he hadn't even finished the hats, and I was like, you've been here for 4 days and that's all you've gotten done? Like, and he got so mad at me. He didn't like that at all, not one bit. But we flew out to Portland, like the group of people with me flew out to Portland a few days before the show. There was a bunch of us on the same flight, so we like all went to the airport together. But I loaded everybody up into an Uber afterwards, and we went to the Airbnb from the airport. And it was huge, it was giant. It was the first Airbnb where I was like, there might actually be enough beds in here for everyone. And there was like a hot tub and a backyard, it was cool. Mish wasn't there when we all like showed up to the Airbnb, so I had the unfortunate task of like trying to make sure everyone was happy with like the sleeping arrangements they had, and I like hated doing that so much because I don't know, I don't want to manage a house full of people while I'm trying to already manage a show, 2 shows, back-to-back days. Like, I just didn't have the capacity to like do that. Everybody spent their off days hiking together, going to like waterfalls and stuff. I think that's super awesome and beautiful. Like, something about having trans people in nature is very magical to me. And so yeah, I was really happy that that's how everyone was like spending their free time. It was really beautiful. I was like, I want to go, but I have to work. Like, but that week, like a lot of the group, like our staff and the wrestlers were arriving into town, getting themselves settled. There was like wrestling practices. It was a busy week. It was weirdly tense between Mish and I though. We were like fighting this whole trip. He also like printed the programs really sloppy, and I was like, I was just calling out all of his like bad planning and sloppy work, and he was getting so mad at me. But we went to go see the Portland wrestlers practice a couple days before the show, and the practice was insane. A ton of people were there, and I feel like Portland had some of the like tallest, strongest, most intense guys I've seen wrestle yet. Like, just crazy. I was in awe, and I was ready to see that show. I was like watching them practice like, holy shit, this show's gonna be amazing. And so the day of the show came. Like, I got there earlier in the morning and I started setting up, and then Mish got there with Austin, the owner of Trans Guy Supply. Mish had told the venue that he would be bringing them a $12,000 check the day of the first show, would be like showing up with the check in hand to give to them. He said he was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bank and get the check, and then I'll meet you at the venue. And I was like, okay. And apparently he had called Austin while he was at the bank and asked Austin to come meet him and loan him $12,000 because the bank wouldn't give him a check. And when I asked him why the bank wouldn't give him a check, he was like, oh, I don't have a real ID. Like, my California ID, it's not a real ID, so they wouldn't give me the check. And I was like, okay. But he was just like, we should just be really grateful to Austin that he was able to like do this so last minute, and like, I'm gonna pay him like as soon as this day is over. And I was like, okay. But Austin and like Trans Guy Supply, that's the main sponsor of our show. Before the like March 2025 shows, he had approached us and been like, I'm really interested in this project. Like, I would love to table at the March shows and see like how well those profits go. And like, if it goes well, I would love to talk to you guys about a bigger sponsorship. And we were like, okay. And so both of the March shows in LA went really well. And he was like, okay, like, I want to go to every city with you and be in every show, and I want Trans Guy Supply to be like on all of the promo material and tabling at all the events, right? And like, I'll give you this flat sponsorship fee. And we were like, yay, cool. Like, I was really glad that our main sponsor was a trans-owned business. There was some people like reporting about Austin's like how he sponsored us, and like they got everything wrong. So I'm just like reiterating, Trans Guy Supply was just at the shows. They were a sponsor of the show, but like, they made their own merch, we made our own merch. They didn't cross, like, and so honestly the 2 days of the Portland shows were some of my favorite shows. Like, I was the most proud of them. There was a ton of people there. Everyone could see everything that was going on thanks to that enormous 90-foot wall of projection. The team had also just been getting really good at like throwing these shows. You know, a bunch of us had been doing it. All of us have been doing it since this was our 9th and 10th show. Like, we were seasoned. People in that room also, it was the first time I think that everyone could hear what Marley was saying in the mic. She's hilarious, so that was awesome that everyone could like finally hear everything she was saying. And a lot of the wrestlers were really, really good. Yeah, there were some truly amazing matches at this show, and the first day of New York City and then the 2 Portland shows are like the easiest, like the ones that went the best in my mind and the easiest ones. But the whole first day went basically perfect until like the last 2 or 3 matches. One of our wrestlers got hurt during his match. It was his knee, I think. But we had an EMT that we hired. We always hired an EMT at every show. Like, the EMT was really great, really professional. He was like, okay, you have to keep everybody away from the stage because the worst part about getting hurt in front of a crowd like this is that everyone is watching you. So get everyone away from the stage. And I was like, yes. So I told everyone, I was like, everyone, like, leave it to the professional. Like, there's something going around about how someone is like mad that I did that, but when an EMT tells the producer of an event to not let a crowd form, you best believe I'm gonna listen to what the EMT is saying. Mish immediately called the ambulance. The EMT was like, he didn't break his knee. Usually, like, it would be fine, but we can't get him off this elevated ring safely without like maybe hurting him more. So you should get like someone that has a mechanical stretcher that can like move up and down so he doesn't have to like walk down the stairs. Yeah, the ambulance also came in 3 minutes, but the ambulance came, they put him on the safe like mechanical stretcher to like get him down. They got him in the ambulance where they could professionally assess him and get him away from all the eyes. I think I messaged him, the wrestler, either from my account or TDLA's account. I can't remember if it was my personal one or if it was from TDLA, but I remember messaging him and being like, hey bro, like, are you good? Like, I'm so sorry that happened. And he said that he was okay, that he probably tore something, but that the worst part was that he was like embarrassed. And he was like, I'm really sorry, like, the show stopped because of me. And I was like, OMG, that is not a problem at all. Like, we do not care, we're just glad that you're okay. Let us know if you need anything. You have our phone numbers. Like, they were in the packets that we gave all of the wrestlers. I was like, if you want to come to tomorrow's show, if you feel up to it, like, we'll make sure to reserve spots for you and your friends if you feel up for it. And he was like, cool, I'll let you know. Our DM exchange was the last that I heard about this until a GoFundMe was posted on November 9th. And I publicly dissolved TDLA on November 7th. November 9th was a very busy time for me, so I kind of didn't even like realize that this was out there. I really wish that I would have been contacted prior to the GoFundMe being posted, either in a phone call, a text, or an email, letting me know that, hey, these injuries are more serious than I originally thought that they were. Are there any options for me to like have my medical bills covered because I might need surgery now and I have to take a lot of time off of work? The answer to that is yes. Yes, we had insurance. It has been publicly stated that our event was uninsured, which is not true at all. The venue itself also had a copy of our insurance. We had $1 million worth of insurance just for personal injury. And I never got contacted. If you have my phone number and my email, which we both communicated through multiple times, and your injuries are more serious than I previously knew about, it is now like your responsibility to reach out and be like, hey, this is actually escalating into a more serious issue. What can be done about this? Because like the insurance won't cover a minor injury. Like making an insurance claim, like for event insurance, it can't just like cover a minor payment, but something as serious as like an ambulance ride or surgery, like time off of work because of an injury, that stuff we absolutely would have been putting in an insurance claim for. That's why we bought the insurance in the first place. We had a lot of people in the community too. We could have reached out and been like, anyone here familiar with like filing insurance claims? Like, can you assist us with this so that we can make sure to get this wrestler the most money possible? We could have paid for all of these bills. $15K on the GoFundMe is nothing compared to the $1 million worth of event insurance that we literally have. Waivers are only there so that we don't get sued, right? They're not there to take all of the responsibility of us helping someone who gets injured at our event like off our shoulders and we're not going to do anything. We got the insurance for every wrestling event so that if a major injury happened, we had $1 million worth of insurance that we could like help someone with. If I was contacted in an Instagram DM, I don't know about it because he's blocked me on Instagram. And Instagram is just not a professional or appropriate form of communicating about serious issues. Something as serious as like a medical situation like this, where insurance is involved, where like waivers and liability, like these things are serious and there needs to be a paper trail. Any messaging service that you can click on a message and unsend it is not, it's no longer like a professional, reliable form of communication. Like if you can block me and then I can no longer see our message history, like that's no longer a professional and appropriate form of communication. These things need paper trails that can be referenced by like all parties for all time, which is why email and phone texting are the like proper routes of communication for these types of issues. He had my phone number. We'd communicated previously. I had texted him at the beginning of organizing the Portland show. He had my name and like title. He could have searched Adam and found it. Could have asked the team. It was in so many emails. We'd never had to file an insurance claim before for an injury because we'd never had a serious injury. So this wasn't something that was familiar to us. It was a new thing that we would have had to, figure out. But we could have definitely figured it out as a team, and we had all of the appropriate paperwork and documentation of the injury. I'm unsure if her name is pronounced Nia or Naya, but the person who made like the 2-part series about T-Boy wrestling, she did contact me, but she only contacted me through Instagram DM one time in December, did not like comment on my page being like, hey, I sent you a DM. I never saw that DM until like the second video was already up. And journalistically, that's like also not the right thing to do, I don't think. She interviewed so many people who had my phone number. My email is very public. Trans Dudes of LA's email is very public. I would have really appreciated being reached out to like in a more professional way, especially if there's going to be claims being made that we were throwing an illegal event. Like that's a more serious accusation than I think either of them realize, because it doesn't just reflect poorly on us, it reflects poorly on the venue, Avenue Portland. And they definitely don't deserve that. The venue was extremely professional. All of the proper paperwork that was required for us to have the event, they were very serious about that. Their team is really professional and they did a lot for the community. They gave us a really great deal price-wise. They were really welcoming to all these trans people. They were really enthusiastic about the event. They were so kind to our team. It's like the sweetest older couple ever. I don't know, I just don't think it's fair to them to make an accusation like that they're throwing an illegal event at their venue. Were they contacted via email asking for paperwork or proof of the insurance? Because they have that. They could have provided that if they were contacted. Some of these seedy-ass warehouses like do not care. If you have security, they don't care. If you have a liquor license, they don't care. If you have event insurance, they do not give a fuck. But Avenue Portland is not that place. Also, I want to say we never took anything off of Twitch. Twitch automatically removes the VODs after 7 days. Unless you pay for a premium channel, which we did not pay for. We never took any videos down, but we did leave them up for as long as we could. We also sent the Twitch link to everybody the day after the show being like, hey, you know, the VODs are up on Twitch, like, you can clip them and clip your match out of there because you can like clip a VOD and then download the video. And a bunch of people did do that for their matches and like posted them online. Yeah, they don't stay up forever, and I was not contacted asking for footage of the match. This wrestler also never came up to me during the event and said, hey, my partner is kind of giving me a weird vibe. Can I wrestle someone else? Because I was the guy that like paired people together. That was like one of my many jobs within TDLA and T-Boy wrestling. So I really should have been approached at some point during the show. Like, hey, I feel nervous about this match. Can I wrestle someone else? I would have said yes, and I would have gotten him a new partner. But that never happened. And this person, his partner, it wasn't like this person was giving everyone a terrible vibe. Like, he'd already wrestled someone else earlier in the night and there was no problems had. He had come to many, many practices, and the coaches all said that he was very friendly and did not exhibit any like outwardly aggressive behavior. Like, this person was not giving red flags to the team the whole time. I don't think that it was malicious or he was trying to hurt anyone, because if that had been the case, that behavior would have been picked up by one of the coaches, or it would have been picked up in his earlier match. This wrestler who made the GoFundMe, though, he never came to any of the practices. I was speaking to one of the coaches who flew up from LA to Portland to coach every weekend. He was like, he never came to any of the practices. The practices aren't just there for camaraderie and fun, although that is like a big part of it. They're there to give all of the wrestlers access to wrestling training and safety training for free, led by a trans coach. It's probably like the safest, most welcoming like wrestling training and practice that could exist. We really recommended everyone go at least once and try to go on a day that your partner would be there, so you could meet them and so you guys could maybe like have a practice round. And a lot of people did do that, and then some people came to me in like a message or DM afterwards being like, hey, me and my partner wrestled at the practice. I don't know if we vibe that well. Can I get a new partner? And I would repair them. That happened, and it was totally fine. Also, there was something that said like his partner made a TikTok that kind of made him feel like he was gloating about hurting him. And I don't have TikTok on my phone. I don't like TikTok. But we have our lead volunteer, Santoni. They were the one who ran the T-Boy Wrestling TikTok. As soon as we heard that there was something on TikTok that was making this wrestler feel uncomfortable, we talked to Santoni and brought this up to them, and they immediately DM'd the wrestler asking him to take it down, and he did. So we took care of that. But yeah, there's just like some parts of this story that were not reported on accurately, and I think a lot of the personal responsibility of communicating your needs was removed from these discussions, which you can be frustrated that someone isn't anticipating your needs, but you need to like be an adult and communicate that you need something. It's just not possible for me to like anticipate what everyone needs, right? Like if last I hear is someone's like okay and that their injury is not that serious, and then all of a sudden it comes to here and it's like a very escalated GoFundMe publicly stating these things. It's like, where in here am I supposed to apologize, help you, take accountability? There's no chance given, right? I don't know that this is upsetting to you. In order for me to take action on my part to help you, to get you money for your medical bills, to apologize for anything that we did that hurt anyone's feelings or made them feel uncomfortable, it skipped over. And I'm glad that, you know, he did tell his story and that he did get money for his medical bills and for having to take time off of work. I just wish that I could have helped him get a lot more, because that was actually a pretty easy route that we could have gone down if I just had gotten literally one single text. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, like, if he had sent something to Mish, I don't know about it because Mish and I are no longer speaking. I cannot get into contact with him. The thing that sucks is that Mish's name was the only one on the insurance. I personally, without him, cannot file the insurance claim. We're not like, I can't reach him anymore. No one can reach him anymore. Like, if this wrestler does reach out to Mish and Mish does respond to him, there may still be some sort of chance to get the insurance claim filed. But because my name is not on it, I can't do that. I don't know. Good luck trying to get in contact with Mish right now. Nobody can. He's like not staying in one place even. He's like on the East Coast now. He doesn't even like, he moved out of his apartment in LA. We really don't know where he is or what he's doing, and no one can get a hold of him, so I don't know. Yeah, but we wanted to help. But night 2 happened, and it was another awesome night. It was even better than the first one. We were so on point the entire time. The show was so tight. No one got hurt. It went really well. Like, I remember at the end, Dallas and Ashton's final performance was so lit, and I remember watching it and being like, wow, like, this thing that I've done is actually really cool. It's like 10 shows, 4 major cities, like 400 wrestlers brought together. So many people have watched this show and been in this room where like trans people are being celebrated for like 6 fucking hours. And you know, that's really cool. And I just felt really proud of myself watching that end of that show happen. People became real friends through T-Way Wrestling. They met their partners, they like, you know, they had life-altering experiences through T-Way Wrestling. Like, so many people really did have life-altering experiences because of T-Way Wrestling in a positive way. And I could just feel that at the end of the Portland show. I was proud of what I'd done, and I still am. I'm still proud of actually everything that I've done. And I think that that's the reason with even all the cracks in the facade. I wanted it to work so badly. I just wanted it to work so badly that I was willing to like ruin my credit score, drain my savings, work in super turbulent, rocky conditions, like be doing nothing except working all the time because this show seemed so important to so many people. I had so many people come up to me throughout this whole experience and be like, yeah, I didn't because of T-Way Wrestling. What am I supposed to do? Like, let this end? I just wanted to keep providing that for people. How am I supposed to not do everything in my power to keep that going, you know? Like, am I supposed to throw all of this away based on a suspicion that I have no proof of? I don't know. It was just really, like, I was wrestling with this internally a lot. There was a potential for it all to work out, for us to hone our business skills and get it to run smoother and smoother. Like, there was potential for that to happen, you know? Misha had always been like, I don't want to be the person in charge of the money. I don't want it to be in my bank account, my personal bank account. I want someone to be the one paying people's checks. Like, I want an accountant to be the one to do it, which I believed. I thought that, like, at the end of the year, we would, like, have this year's profit and we would be able to split it and, like, that we would be okay. Misha kept assuring me, like, your half will be large. It'll be, like, probably somewhere around $20,000. And I was like, okay. He was like, you just gotta wait till the end of this. But yeah, after the second show, we went out to Dirty Pretty. It was really, really cute. AJ was playing. They had like a backyard patio. They had good food. They gave us free drinks. Lyle and I stayed for a little while and danced. The next day that night was Marley's comedy set. And all of us went to go see it. I remember after I left the show, I was like really hungry and me and Lyle went to go get something to eat. And I just remember feeling like this sense of dread. And I should have been feeling this sense of relief that these shows were over. But I just had this feeling that everything is not okay. And I just cried on Lyle's shoulder in that pasta restaurant. But the next morning, we all had to be out of the Airbnb on the plane. Misha had already left the night before, so I was in charge of making sure everything looked okay and rounding up everybody. And I remember just being super depressed and being like, everyone just get your shit and let's get out of here. And right after we got back from Portland, we had to throw like a Halloween party. And so Mish was over at my house working, and we got a message from the group chat of like T-Way Wrestling saying that they wanted to have a group meeting. And I was like, oh cool, okay, like let me respond to this and say like, cool, what day do you guys want to meet? What time? But Mish was like, oh my god, a group meeting? I was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And he was like getting so worked up, and he was like, I want to have one-on-one meetings before we have a group meeting. And I was like, who cares what order it's in? Like, they probably just want to have a group meeting first so that not everyone has to have a one-on-one meeting with you. Like, it's like not everyone has time for a one-on-one meeting. Like, that's group meeting first makes sense. And he was getting like really worked up, and he was like, they're gonna unionize against us and like form a mutiny. And I was like, what? Like, you need to calm down. Like, we haven't done anything wrong. And she was like, everyone is gonna be mad because they're not getting paid enough and they're not getting paid fast enough. And I was like, okay, well, when are you gonna pay everyone? Because they were asking to meet like in November. And so I was like, shouldn't we have all of our money by then, and shouldn't everyone be paid out? Like, maybe people will be upset about, how long it took in the past, but if you pay everyone out before this meeting, we'll go into the meeting not owing anyone any money, and it'll be chill, and we can just talk about, next year being contracted and how we'll have an accountant to pay everyone out. But Mish was like, I just gotta go home. Like, just left. I was like, what the hell? Okay, whatever, I gotta work. Like, he called me later and he was like, they have a group chat where they talk about us. And I was like, who cares? I was like, yeah, of course they have a group chat where they talk about us. Like, what job have you worked at where you didn't have a group chat with all of your coworkers where you sometimes talk shit on your boss? Like, that's healthy. That's normal. Yeah, that to me is the end of the second chapter. The third chapter starts with the Halloween party in my mind. I would love to keep talking, but unfortunately I am exhausted and have been sitting in my office recording this for like 4 hours. So I'll see you in the next video.